Hello, this is my final video, and as I gathered what was most important for me from this semester of observing Dr. Looney and just learning about what's most important to me as I'm growing and becoming a teacher with adults and younger children as well, but particularly adults, as that's what I observed with Dr. Looney. I felt like I couldn't really deviate from what I've been focusing on, and that is reflective practice. So, as I adjust to a degree in my literature review, I will be talking about becoming a reflective educator and perspective taking, relaying empathy, and receiving feedback. And these are things that I didn't just read about for my literature review and just on for myself, but I observed Dr. Looney do in her class continually inside of the classroom with her students and one-on-one with me as we talked about strategy and methods and such. And so one of the main things I would have to say is that I never realized how important it was that a teacher is a learner. And continually, there's this quote, very short, from Michelangelo that says, "I'm still learning." When he was 87, he said that. And um, that is so beyond deep, but so significant, because sometimes we think when we're just starting out in something or in our earlier years or whatever it may be, when we're fresh is when we're learning, and then you just kind of become this expert and you stop growing. But even at that age, you could say, "I'm still learning." So as this picture shows to the right, all teachers are learners, and that's something I've really learned this semester. And these are questions that I've asked myself in this process of the last 16 weeks, and here are my answers. So, as I've kind of already inferred, I've learned that teaching and learning are interchangeable terms. Someone who teaches something, they were able to learn it, and someone who I feel is able to really learn something, they're able to teach it. And that's really important, being an educator, whether it be with children or adults. And the medium that an educator learns from is not just through textbook. And I've got to see that one on one hand myself as I've observed Dr. Looney. Um, and that address the next question: is textbook information greater than hands-on experience? The textbooks found information is foundational, but it's that one-on-one experience that you get watching somebody else and then you practicing it, where you get to learn things that they didn't necessarily get to convey in a textbook. And I really noticed the importance of observation within reflection. Just as we wrote our blogs and such, um, if I wasn't so purposeful in that observation to watch every little thing that Lisa did and other people did, then I wouldn't have anything to reflect on. And so observation is so important in reflection and growing and looking at strategy and what works and what doesn't work and such. And so through the research I've done this semester and watching Dr. Looney, I've learned that basically reflective practice is when you're able to observe yourself within a certain area, like for example teaching, and see what your level of effectiveness is in that area, and then you can take that to improve whatever it may be that you need to work on. And the reason why it's important to do it is because as you observe that, how you're coming across, how people are receiving whatever you're giving them, whether it be teaching, counseling, or whatever it may be, um, you see how you're personally doing it, how it's working out or not working out for them, and then you could more readily change things to meet the needs of the people that you're trying to work with. And that's really important, because you don't want to just keep doing something if it's not working. And even if it is working, you want to find out, how can I do it better? And there's so many ways I've realized just from reading, like, and as I said, watching Dr. Looney, how to engage in reflective practice. But I noticed that it's important to note your management in that area, and that includes so many things from preparation to execution to after to reflecting on how it worked out. And in that process, you have to watch what was my response as I was doing whatever it may be, teaching or counseling? What was the other person's response? How they were perceiving what I was trying to get across to them? Did it relay? Did it not relay? And in that level of comprehension, in Dr. Looney's discussions in her lecture, she was continually putting discussions in between to make sure that the students were engaging with the information and that they understood it, and talking with one another and building more information through that experience. And something that she continually did as well is practice empathy in her perspective taking with her students. And as you know, empathy is just the ability to understand someone else's feelings. And basically, when we think about that, walking in another's shoes, when you do this, and as I observe her do this, and something that I've been really purposeful to do in my life, you can examine situations from another point of view, and that way she was continually able to meet the needs of her students, and they were very diverse, in even just the ages and the cultures and such. And so, when you are being able to relay empathy, it goes beyond superficial empathy. And by that, I mean, it's just not like, oh, that was hard for you. I'm sorry. I hope it's easier next time. Let's say it was an assignment or something like that. It's really understanding what's the perspective of the student. And an example of that would be one of the students in our class that was in our class this semester. She is a grad student, obviously, but her English isn't very good. She's from China, and so Lisa would give her several hours to complete exams. She needed it, and she would give her a lot of one-on-one outside of the classroom, and people who sat next to her would help her along through lecture and such. And so that's a perfect example of not just, oh, I'm sorry you're having a hard time, but what can I provide for you in order for you to excel? And so as Lisa was able to do that, she was able to meet the needs of that student. And so as we're perspective taking and reflecting empathy as educators, I learned this is something that's also been challenging for me as well, is to not reflect bias. And by that is, let's look at this picture. Well, this one person is arguing that's a 9, and another person is arguing that that's a 6 and such. And a lot of times I think I've struggled with, I'm seeing something from my point of view and not understanding that the person next to me or persons in front of me have several different point of views. So in order for me to be not just a good educator, an effective educator, but person, I can't just assume this is my perspective, this is the way I see it, and this is the way it works. So in order to be engaging in reflective practice and to take perspective and relate empathy, I have to set aside all my views and perceptions of what I think is best, because I won't be able to step in their shoes and have all my ideas of what I think is right at the same time. It just will not work. And as I do this, we can go on to talk about feedback. And basically, feedback is, I've noticed, is such an important part of becoming a reflective educator. And Lisa was continually open to how is what I'm doing working and not working out for you. People had suggestions, whether it be she would give them a lot of choices. For example, in exams, she would have sections where she'd have a list of questions and say, you don't have to answer 2 of these, or here's 5 essay questions and answer 2 or 3 of them, and wouldn't tell them exactly what they needed to do. And she'd say that she was having them exercise choice. And so when you do that, situations like that, whether a person gets to have choice in something, or they get to give feedback or how you're working on something, they feel part of the process, and it's not like you're just talking down to them. So that's really important. And in being an educator, not just education in general, but for example, when you get those evaluations at the end of a course or anything where someone can evaluate you, you have to be open to that feedback, but the feedback needs to be timely as well. And that's something I really noticed about Lisa, not just in this course, but in other course that I've had with her. Well, too, her feedback was right away, so then she knew how you were doing on some. She wanted her students to know how they were doing on something, how they were progressing, in order for them to know how to approach it the next time. And so when you give feedback, it's important that you don't just say, good, was bad, that you say what was working, what wasn't working, what to improve on for next time. And that's something that I noticed Lisa was very purposeful about. She would say, like, what are your areas of strength and what are some things I'd like to see you work on. And that's exactly how she would word it. She wouldn't say this is good, this is bad. And so you really understood where you're at with something right now, where you need to grow, and what to keep doing and continue to improve. But as she was able to receive suggestions and feedback from her students, I really understood the importance of, oh, sorry about that, about when you are able to receive feedback, it means that you're able to act upon it. So it wouldn't be enough for me to say, well, it's easier for me when you give me slide handouts when you're lecturing, and let's say, Dr. Looney never did this, but she would say, oh, that's nice. But if she received that feedback and then did it, which actually she did something like that similar in another course, I was telling her I was having a hard time following the videos. And then she ended up from that point on giving all of us slide notes online. And so that's a perfect example of that. And so whoever's giving feedback, our positioning of that is really important. And just like we see in this picture right here, are we closed off to the feedback? Are we open to it? And us being open to it, obviously, is going to have a different outcome than us being closed off to it. And so, as I've noted that Lisa was able to be open to it and do what she could to adjust accordingly within reason, it really highlighted to me the importance of being open to what other people have to say and what their viewpoint of situations are. And so, basically, reflective practice and perspective taking and relaying empathy and being able to receive feedback is what's gonna, I really feel, continue to propel me into being the kind of educator that I feel is going to impact so many people in a positive way, and not just an educator, but an individual as in general. As I reflect upon how I'm going across things and how they're working or not working, I have to take people's perspective in that, because there's obviously more viewpoint than my voice. My viewpoint is so limited, and in that I have to be able to be vulnerable and relay empathy of where the people are at, because they may not understand things the way I'm at. Their perspective is different, their experience is different, culture is different, everything like that. And in that, I have to be able to receive feedback, not just give it. And a lot of times when you even just think about an educator, you think about them just giving feedback as it's working or not working, but you have to be able to receive feedback as well. And so these are the most important things that I've taken away from this semester. I know this video is longer than you had hoped, but these are the most important things to me. And so thank you for this opportunity and this experience.